This is 8.6, Solve Quadratics by Factoring Worksheet. We'll do the odds together. We're going to find the solutions, but we're going to do it by factoring, okay? So we learned how to find the solutions in the calculator. Basically, if I graph this in the calculator, I would have a parabola, and the parabola somewhere would go through the x-axis, usually twice, not always, but usually. The x value of where it went through the x-axis is the solution. So if this is like -1, that would be one of the solutions. If this is like over 5, positive 5, that would be the other solution. That's it. So we learned it that way. It's really easy to do in the calculator, but it's also important to know how to do it by factoring. So we'll do that. So when I factor, this 0 is my y value, because when you factor, when you find your solution, the value of y is 0 when you're on the x-axis. Okay, so when I just focus on this side and get the factors of this, my x squared is going to be broken into x times x. All right, my -7 is going to be broken into two factors that multiply to give me 7. There's only one option. That would be 1 times 7. Okay, no other whole numbers will multiply to give me 7. So I'm going to put a 1 here and a 7 here. Now we need to figure out our signs. We look at the second sign, and we look at it. If it's a positive, we know we have two of the same, either 2 pluses or 2 minuses. But since this one's negative, we know we're going to have a positive and a negative. But we need to figure out which one needs to be the positive. When I do my check, I want to have more positives here when I combine, because my middle term is positive. So I need the 7 to be positive, the 1 to be negative. When I do my check, I get -1 in x, that's -1x. 7 in x, that's 7x. 7x minus 1x is positive 6x, so that works out. -1 times 7 is -7, that works out. If I had done my check and realized that my sign was incorrect, it would be easy. I would just switch my numbers. Okay, so these are the factors. Now let's get to the last step of finding the solutions. Okay, so what this means is, since this is all equal to 0, that means this factor is equal to 0. That also means that this factor needs to be equal to 0. Okay, so think about it. What number would go here for this to be 0? And if you're not sure, you can just do opposite math. +1 + 1. X is equal to +1. That's one of my solutions. Solve for x down here, -7 - 7. X is equal to -7. And if I graphed this in the calculator, I would see that parabola going through at +1 and -7. That's how you do it. Let's take a look at number 3. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in just to help you guys out. So number 3, I have x squared minus 2x minus 3 equals 0. So I write in my factor parentheses. I'm going to split the x squared into x times x. And I only have two numbers that will multiply to give me 3. It's going to be 1 times 3 will give me 3. Okay, so I'm going to have a 1 here, a 3 here. Now look at my second sign, it's negative, so once again I will have two opposite signs, a positive and a negative. Which one needs to be positive or negative? Well, this middle term is negative, so my bigger number needs to be the negative. When I do my check, I verify that. The -3x and the +1x do indeed give me -2x. And I do multiply to get -3 here. So these are my factors. Now I will do my finding of the solutions. So I know x + 1, this factor, is equal to 0. What would have to go here? -1. A -1 and a +1 give me 0. So -1 is the solution. What would go here? The opposite of that minus 3 would be a positive 3 would have to go there to give me 0. So negative 1 and positive 3. Okay? So far so good. Let's do number 5. X squared minus 6x equals negative 9. Now this one's not ready to factor yet. I need everything on one side of the equal sign. So I'm going to draw my wall and do opposite math to move this negative 9 over to the other side. Opposite of negative 9 is positive 9. So I'm going to rewrite the left side. X squared minus 6x plus 9. And all I have left over here is 0 because everything else is gone. So it equals 0. There's that. Let's separate that into my two factors in parentheses. I know I will have x and x again. Now my factors of 9 would be 1 times 9. 2 doesn't work. 3 does. 3 times 3. 4 doesn't work. 5 doesn't work. 6 doesn't work. And so on all the way till 9, and we already have 9. So my two options are either 1 and 9 or 3 and 3. Let's take a look at the second sign. I have a positive. That tells me I'm either going to have 2 pluses or 2 minuses. Two of the same. Now since my first one is a minus, I know I'm dealing with 2 minuses. So what numbers will multiply to give me positive 9, but they will add with these minus signs in front to give me negative 6? It's going to be the 3 and the 3. Okay, let's do our check. We have negative 3x and another negative 3x. That gives us the negative 6x in the middle. And we do multiply and get positive 9. So that works. So take a look at this one. This one's a little different than the other ones we did. They're the same thing twice, right? So when I set that to 0, what number goes here to make this equal to 0? Positive 3. But it's going to be positive 3 for both of them. We don't have to list it twice. What that means is there's only one solution. And if you remember, I'll graph it really fast. I'm just going to put this in the calculator. That means it starts on the x-axis. We'll just go through that real quick. X squared minus 6x plus 9. Your parabola is starting on the x-axis. In other words, the vertex is also the one solution it has. And see how it's just 1, 2, 3 to the right? There it is. Positive 3. Okay, number 7. X squared plus 2x equals 3. We need to move that 3 over. Minus 3 on both sides. We rewrite it. X squared plus 2x minus 3 equals 0. Set up your parentheses. We put x and x. Factors of 3 are just 1 and 3. Okay? So it's just a matter of what goes where. We have a negative here, so we know we have opposite signs, a positive and a negative. We want a middle term to be positive, so we need our bigger number to be positive. The 1 will be negative. When we do our check, we get 3x, it's positive. We get negative 1x, 3x minus 1x does give us a positive 2x. When we multiply, we do get negative 3. So these are the correct factors. We go from that, I'm going to rewrite x plus 3, set it to 0. That's going to be negative 3, right? So that's 1. X minus 1, set to 0. That's going to be positive 1. This is another way. You could say x equals negative 3, x equals 1. I'm just putting them here in braces or whatever. You can also do it that way. Okay, so there's that one. Last one we're doing together is this multiple choice. Now, it's a multiple choice. We don't necessarily have to factor it. I will, but I'll also show you in the calculator. What are the solutions to this equation? Okay. They don't actually give us a lot of room, but we have enough room. I'll just move to one side here. I'm going to set my parentheses up, put my x and my x. I have a negative here on the second sign, so that tells me I'm dealing with opposite signs, a positive and a negative. My last number is 21, so I could do 1 times 21. 2 doesn't work. 3 works. 3 times 7. 4 does not. 5, 6 does not. 7 is already there. So actually I only have 2 choices, 1 and 21, 3 and 7, which will subtract to give me 4. Well, not that one. That's going to give me 20, but 7 minus 3 is 4. Okay? So now I look at that 4. He needs to be negative. That means my bigger of my 2 numbers needs to be the negative. There it is. And we know that I have to set that to 0. So what goes here? A negative 3. So negative 3 is a solution. What goes here? A positive 7. That's a solution. So my solutions are negative 3 or 7. And if I graphed that, I'll do it real fast. Super easy to do it on the graph. I will just change that equation to minus 4x minus 21. Turn on my grid, menu 2, 2, 3. I count over 3 to the left. There's my negative 3. There it is on the answer. Count over to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to the right. There's my 7. The calculator way is super easy. So show your work, because you're going to need this for future math classes, and we are requiring it for the homework, but always check it in the calculator to make sure you got it right. Okay, I hope that helps. We'll see you in class.